What is going on, guys? It is Sam, the Raid Man. We are back today with another list. This one is one I've actually already recorded and the audio got corrupted, so I'm going to re-record it. This is a list of the top 10 most underrated epics in the game in no particular order. I've seen a lot of tier lists. I understand the sentiment of a lot of people, and I just think that these guys, even if they get respect, they don't get enough respect, or they get no respect and they deserve some. So I'm gonna go left to right. This is not in order. This is just in the order of how I wrote them down. So the first one is a guy who I think is really been power crept a little bit, but also was such a good champion and still is. But just because better champions have been added, people start talking about this guy. Like, if you get this guy, if I get this guy in the free-to-play, you get him early on, he's amazing. And that is Tayll. One of the best champions for a long time in the game and still very, very good. Not super in-game, but very, very good. So he's got decreased target Terminator by 50%, which we like. If the fully depletes a Terminator, places a stun for 2 turns. He's a defense-based champion. That's a slept-on skill. Defense in all battles is a great aura for an epic you can get early game. AoE, decreased defense, and if they're under decreased attack, he places sleep. And then A1 places decreased attack. Great for clan boss, great for any kind of waves where you're setting up with a decreased defense, and he's defense-based, so easy to keep alive. So decreased defense, decreased attack, single target, and a little bit of control mixed in there, plus a great aura. What's not to like? I feel like we hype up some champions that are way worse than that. Anyways, just slept on, that's all I'm saying. This is another champion I think is mostly a little niche, but super fun and still has such an amazing ability that she doesn't get the respect she deserves, and that's Cardinal. Arguably a top 3 revive in the game. It's just a little niche. It doesn't matter what her A1 is or A2 is, you don't want to use those really. It's all about the A3. Redemption revives all dead allies, heals them by 25% of their max HP, which is super low. So low on the HP side, but on the Terminator side, it is the opposite. It is the highest it can be. It boosts their Terminator to max, meaning whoever you revive, typically you're in arena, you said put her in double stone skin, everyone else dies, you revive all 3 of them, they go bop, bop, bop before anyone. Doesn't matter if the other people have 110% Terminator, you're going. Your 3 champions you revived or whoever you revived are going. And it's just pretty unbelievable, and it's super fun. You put her with like a Kaitis, or you put her with, you know, like somebody who gets knocked back down or knocked down and then picks back up. She's just so fun. She makes so many cool arena teams, and it is niche, but she's still good in faction wars. You can kind of cheese it where you just put her in like, you know, immortal and regen or something, and then right at the end when you're about to kill the boss, you just revive the other rares or whoever you're doing to get 3 stars on faction wars. She's not as useful everywhere else, but she is super, super cool. And I don't think she gets that love that she deserves. Now this, I would argue, might be the most slept on epic in the game. You get her for free, so people discount her. I still use her in some of the Centranos waves. Her kit is still great. Decreased speed on the A1, which is super slept on, 40% chance. Fills the Terminator of all allies by 15%, places big increased speed for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. She's a good booster. AoE, 75% chance of decreasing Terminator by 15%. She's great for like Scarab King. She's good for Spider. She's good for early game arena. She's even good for early game dungeons because she has ally speed in all battles by 19%. This is the same speed lead as someone like a Cardinal, or like a lot of champions that are really good in-game champions on this early free epic. So just because she's free doesn't mean she's bad. Maybe take another look at High Katoon. We're going to skip a lot of these factions. One of the most underrated epics, I think, from this faction, he does get love, but I don't think he gets enough love. That's a Kemptum. So many things going on with this kit. Such a complex, cool kit. Triple hitter A1. Each hit has placing poison. If the target's under Hex, also places debuff spread. Triple hitter, 3-turn cooldown AoE. Places Hex, extends Hex. Such a good Hex champion. On Hydra, you can sort of keep Hex up the entire time. Also has a super cool passive. When someone gets damaged by poison, anyone else who's under Hex receives damage from that poison as well. And an ally speed aura in all battles by 18%. Great, great, great. I love it. Kemptum, super good. He is a little squishy. That's definitely his biggest downside. Super quick announcement, got some pretty exciting news from Plarium. I now have my own promo code. So if you want to start a second account, or if you want to start your first account, if you've never played Raid before, you can use this link code to download the game. I showed this in one of my videos, but basically if you use this code, it will give you a free Karato Fox Hunter and 3 epics, Fane, Romero, and Vergis. And here it is, but I'll go ahead and put this in the description of my video. If you use this, you will get, like I talked about, the legendary champion from the Shadowkin faction, Karato Fox Hunter, who's a good damage dealer and pretty good control. A great kickstart if you want to start a new account, or like I said, if you just want to start a second account, you can also pair this code with the Monkey King code or the Superpowers code and get one of those great champions as well. Next up, we're going to go down to the Demon Spawn. And this is a champion who was talked about a lot early in Raid's game, and then a lot when Hydra came out, but not since then. And there's really 2 ways to use this champion. I'm talking about Umbrell Enchantress, a little scandalous, let's hide her. A1 is nothing really. So the A2 is the Hydra ability. She's a defense-based champion. 3-turn cooldown, AoE block buffs for 3-turn duration. Meaning if you're going at the same speed as a Hydra, you will keep block buffs up the whole time basically. It's one of the best, simply just regarding this skill, it's one of the best block buffs placing skills in the entire game. The only issue is you don't really use her for anything else besides that. Now you could put her in like a curse set or provoke set, and then you can do block buffs plus something else. I think is a worthwhile shot. If you guys want to see a video of that, I'm happy to test that out for you. And then what got her talked about early on in Raid was this, which was an amazing arena ability. So AoE places provoke for 2 turns, which if you provoke 4 champions for 2 turns, you should win the fight 99.9% of the time. The only issue with this ability is she places block active skills on herself for 5 turns, which is wild. Can't be resisted, blocked, or removed. It used to be able to be cheesed and removed, and now it can't be. Basically, she'll provoke for 2 turns, and then she's just out of the fight. She's just sitting there taking damage. That's all she's really doing. So even with this, though, that's still great, right? If you get her early game, you put her in the arena, you can put her in like a Frost set where they hit her and then get frozen. You can control them hypothetically for 3 turns. Pretty cool, but this isn't really useful in Hydra. I guess it's a kind of break in case of emergency, but realistically, you just want her getting back to these block buffs. Because if she does this, she's doing A1s for 5 turns. So that's not ideal. So I'm not saying she's the best in the world, but 2 really cool, really good use cases. Really good in Arena, really good in Hydra. She does have a very low base speed. I don't think I showed that. If you guys didn't see it, it's a 93 base speed, which is way, way too slow. Now, let me tell you about a champion. If I told you an epic champion could place AoE, decrease defense, and weaken, and potentially even place some decreased attack, what would you say? I don't know any epics that do that, do you? AoE, there are some single target ones that do that. I don't know any champions that do that. Well, it's because it's Spider, who no one talks about because it's not 100% for the weaken. So glowing mark right here books to 100% chance of placing decreased defense on all enemies. That's 100%. And books to a 70% chance of placing weaken on all enemies. Now that one only goes on for 1 turn. But you get Sniper Mastery and Master Hexer, obviously. You're going to get it for 2 turns, or you're going to get it for 1 turn, 75% chance for 1 turn, and then a small chance for 2 turns. But you're getting AoE decreased defense, AoE weaken. On this ability right here, you're going to get decrease in duration of all buffs, and then 75% chance of placing decreased attack. And then removes buffs on his A1, ally speed in dungeons by 25%. So I'm not saying, again, like I'm kind of caveating all of these, he's not the best epic in the game, but no one ever talks about him, and he's got 100% decreased defense and weaken. That's huge for an epic. If you get him in early game arena or something, that's gonna be massive. Anyways, I just think he does not get the love because of, maybe it's because of that reliability thing, I'm not sure. Next up, we got 2 champions from the Night Revenant. A lot of great epics in here. There's even some that I snubbed. First is gonna be Tayll, who I was just recently working on. She's got so much going on in her kit. So one of the only champions that you can get that's not a legendary, I think, that places AoE decreased defense without needing any books. The second you pull her, she's got the speed and the accuracy, 100% chance of placing decreased defense for 2 turns, which is great. It does book down to a 3-turn cooldown, so eventually you will want that. She's got another AoE, increases the duration of all debuffs on all enemies for 1 turn. So you place that decreased defense, you go again, you can extend it, which is nice. A1 places debuff spread from the target and places it on all enemies under Hex. And where do you get the Hex from? That's from her passive. When she's attacking enemies under decreased defense, 50% chance of placing Hex. So you've got 2 AoEs and then a debuff spread. You should be placing a lot of Hex and you should be spreading some of those debuffs. Plus extending debuffs, you can extend the Hex, extend the decreased defense, kind of just a debuff machine. Really, really good in Hydra. And then next up is one of my favorite damage dealers in the game. All single target. It's Frox with the super cool little headpiece here. A1, places decreased attack, we don't really care, but hits kind of hard. This one, 3-hitter. Each hit has a 50% chance, books is 75 of stealing a buff. So you want to make sure that the enemies have no buffs. And then after they place it, if they have no more buffs, after they hit, if they have no buffs, we'll place block buffs. And the reason you really care about the boss or whoever you're fighting not having buffs, because Tender Mercies, this is what she's all about. Attacks 1 enemy, inflicts 100% more damage against targets without any buffs. This has like a 4.8 multiplier, I think, or 4.6 or something. So when you inflict 100% more damage, that's a 9.6 multiplier or whatever it might be. It's insane. I've seen this hit for well over 1 million damage on Clan Boss. It's super fun. And that's why you want, that's why you want there to be no buffs so that this always gets that 100% extra damage. 1400 base attack, pretty solid 60% base crit damage. She nukes. Super fun champion. One of the first ever raid videos I recorded was Frox in Clan Boss. She was awesome. Another Clan Boss damage dealer I've tested that I think no one talks about is Swen. Maybe that's why they don't talk about her, because how do you say that name? Swen, Sue? No idea. We'll call her Sue. Alex, you're in dungeon by 60. A1, each hit, 2-hitter, each hit has a 50% chance when booked of placing poison for 2 turns. It's a solid A1. AoE on the A3, 3-turn cooldown when booked, 100% or 80% chance of placing decreased defense. So that's a knock, but again, put sniper, it's 85. A2, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 60% chance of placing, now that'll be 70% chance of placing weaken, which will place it on a single target boss. 2 chances at 70 plus that sniper, you're gonna place it. And again, sniper would help with the poisons on the A1. So decreased defense, weaken, and poison. She hits pretty hard. I put her in, I think she outdamaged Fane, I wanna say. She outdamaged some really good champions in clan boss for me. Decreased defense, weaken, poison, those are like the 3 biggest things you want for damage dealers. And then lastly, people do talk about this epic. I think there's an argument to be made that he might be a top 3 epic in the game, because people talk about Cardinal, the blue, and they talk about him for Fire Knight, but he's really amazing anywhere, right? So he's all about freeze, triple hit on the A1, each hit has a 25 books a 35% chance of placing freeze. When you're hitting 35%, 35%, 35%, it's a good chance you're gonna land it. On the Fire Knight, you can even land it multiple times. AoE attacks all enemies 2 times, each has a 65% chance of placing freeze. There's a good shout to put him in that mastery where you get an extra 5% chance of placing these control debuffs, because that will affect each of these hits. So instead of, I think it's 5% extra. Let's check that mastery out really quickly. I also can't remember what it's called for the life of me. Fearsome Presence. Increase the chance of placing freeze or any of these things by 5%. Okay, that makes sense. So for Creodan, never know how to say these names. For this one, each hit would have, instead of a 35, you'd have a 40% chance for each of them. For these, each hit, instead of having 65, will have a 70% chance. So it really does stack up because he's hitting so many times. Increase speed when everybody fills the turn meter of all eyes by 15%. It's a solid ability, nothing crazy. And then fills his turn meter by 5% for each freeze debuff placed by this champion. So again, in waves, he can just keep everyone frozen. This books to a 3-turn cooldown, so he's gonna freeze everyone, essentially, and then get a 20% turn meter fill, right? Because, or maybe 25% turn meter fill. And then you've got increased speed, you can loop back stuff, freeze people in the A1s. Like, he's such a good control champion. Yes, he's amazing for Fire Knight Hard, which is great, but he's also amazing for any faction wars. He makes it so easy. Any kind of dungeon, he can just get you through the waves. He's awesome. I just don't think he gets talked about enough. So let me know, what is the biggest champions I left off the list in terms of like disrespected or underappreciated epics in the game? That's a list of my personal top 10. So thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all on the next video.